Hey guys, Benjamin Albright, NFL Underground. I want to talk to you today about the Phantom Football Forum. Designed to give you greater access to me. You get the latest intel, insider information, rumors, news, notes, injury information, Vegas lines, fantasy football, power rankings. Watch football games live with me. Phantom Football Forum. Only $1 for your first month if you sign up today. Facebook.com/WatchPhantom. Link right here. Come join us today.
Hey everybody, welcome to Noon O'Clock. I'm TJ Carpenter, live here on Phantom, and apologize for the late start here. We are laying down tile in our laundry room, and I want to remain married to my wife. So we were a little bit late getting in on the show here today, but I promise you it was for a noble cause. And also too, want to thank our sponsors as always. If you're not familiar with our sponsors, let's start with SeatGeek. SeatGeek is my go-to headquarters, my go-to app, my go-to everything for sports event purchases. And the reason why is because SeatGeek puts together every single ticket offer online in one place for you so that you can comparison shop, find the best deal for you, best value for you, or just the cheapest ticket, whatever it is. You can find it at SeatGeek. Just download the app and use the promo code PHANTOM. That's F-A-N-T-O-M. Use that promo code and you'll get $20 off your very first purchase. So if you're supporting what we're doing here at Phantom, thank you very much. Please use that promo code the next time you go make a purchase for a live sporting event or for a concert. They do concerts as well, comedy events. I know comedy's huge here in Denver. So if you're going down to Comedy Works, use the promo code PHANTOM, F-A-N-T-O-M on SeatGeek. And you can also do that for Red Rocks concerts as well. Red Rocks season kind of winding up here. Just a few more months. So everything's huge in the concert scene as well. And of course, go to betdsi.com if you're going to place your NFL wagers. Do so today, betdsi.com on the futures. We told you your lock of the century of the month is Cowboys under. Take the Cowboys under on the season and you will win you some money. Also, don't forget Brent Malia Properties with Coldwell Banker. Brent Malia was our real estate agent. My wife and I found a wonderful house, very much in thanks to Brent Malia Properties. So Brent and everything that he did for us, it was tremendous. You know, we consider Brent a friend, even though we met him in a transactional business thing. It doesn't feel like that at all. We really became friends over the course of our house buying experience with Brent. And even to this day, still helps us with stuffs around the house, much like our laundry room project, things like that. So you'll be seeing a lot of Brent around the broadcast and around everything we're doing here at Phantom in Denver locally. So if you're looking for a house in Denver, Brent Malia, go to tjsagent.com for more information about Brent. And then finally, PlatteRiverMortgage.com. Platte River Mortgage helped us with our mortgage, helped us get the best possible rate on a mortgage. It was great working with a company like that because they were so diligent. They didn't take any time in getting back to us, or they would pick up the phone directly. I know Sean Sedita, I called him on his vacation, and he still helped us out with our mortgage buying process. So big shout out to PlatteRiverMortgage.com and Sean Sedita for that. Also, too, Brent Malia Properties with Coldwell Banker. Go to tjsagent.com if you're looking for a house in Denver. Go to PlatteRiverMortgage.com if you're looking for help with buying, selling, or refinancing your mortgage here in Denver as well. All right, who all's on the chat so far? We got G. What's up, Eric? Eric is on there. Didn't see you on Ari's show today. Yeah, Eric, I wasn't on Ari's show today. I apologize to all of you guys who were looking for me on Ari's show. So I didn't get a chance to tell you how much the Cowboys suck on Ari's show, but I will tell you how much the Cowboys are going to suck on my show. Okay, we're really only going to talk about one thing today. Practice is basically over with for the training camp process or portion of preseason, and so we're not going to be broadcasting out there any longer, but what we will talk about is what John Elway said midway through the preseason. He usually addresses the media about midway through the preseason, and he was asked yesterday about Colin Kaepernick. And I want to be very, very clear about this. because it has created a national firestorm around whether or not Colin Kaepernick deserves to be on an NFL roster again. And I'm telling you right now that John Elway has a lot of motives behind what he does in terms of NFL moves and things like that. And if anybody who's seen this show before, you know, like, I'm not a huge fan of 2018 John Elway. I'm a huge fan of 1997 John Elway when I became a fan of John Elway in general. Big fan of TD, big fan of Elway as a kid growing up. But 2018 Elway, you know, I'm a little bit older. I know a little bit more about how the world works. I know a little bit more about John Elway as a human being. And I would say that a large portion of this controversy and his comments in general are not political. His motives are exclusively self-interest and ego. And it's hard. I think this is kind of hard to explain to people on the outside who don't live in Denver, and because this has been a topic going on in Denver for I don't know, about 2 years now, about whether or not John Elway deserves to be as arrogant as he is and make the decisions that he makes, like with blatant disregard of everyone else around the organization, or blatant disregard of what anyone else thinks, or does he need to be held accountable for not getting things right? And so Colin Kaepernick, if you wanted to look at the string of decisions that got us to where we are today with the Denver Broncos quarterback situation, it started with Colin Kaepernick. It started with Colin Kaepernick being asked, wanting to get out of San Francisco, and then being asked to take a fairly substantial pay cut by the Denver Broncos to get traded to Denver. And this was about I would say 2 weeks before the draft in 2016. So this was before they drafted Paxton Lynch. And you could argue that if either Colin Kaepernick had decided he agreed to take a pay cut, or John Elway decided to acquiesce and pay a player his fair value, then we wouldn't have any of the problems. If that impasse had gone a different way, then we wouldn't be in the situation that we're in today. That's the basic premise of everything that I'm going to tell you today. Now, Elway said, you take a pay cut or you're not a Bronco. And this was pretty much in line with everything to that point of how John Elway deals with free agent players or deals with players in contract negotiations, which is you take the offer or you play for another team. They did this with Talib. They did this with TJ Ward. They definitely did it with a lot of other. Gets that player there that's not financially motivated. So we go back to that moment. Colin Kaepernick doesn't want to take a pay cut, but he doesn't want to be in San Francisco. John Elway says, well, we'd love to have you here in Denver, but for $5 million less than you were making. And Colin Kaepernick says no, and then Elway says, okay, you're dead to me. And this has happened with a lot of quarterbacks, a lot of free agent quarterbacks, a lot of quarterback trades. This is a constant topic. This is like talking about Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame on overnight sports talk radio. This topic never goes away. It is one of those things in Denver no one really wants to let go of, because ever since Peyton Manning left the team, the Broncos have not had a quarterback and have sucked. And every attempt to acquire a quarterback has not only not solved the problem, but actually made things worse, which now that I think about it is a perfect analogy for my laundry room floor. That's kind of where the Denver Broncos are at right now, because if they had signed Colin Kaepernick in 2016, they never would have drafted Paxton Lynch. They never would have had to make any sort of free agent moves with Brock Osweiler again. They never would have had to trade away good, talented, backups and Kyle Sloter and Trevor Siemian, or just flat out let them go. They never would have had to done any of that stuff, because they would have had a quarterback. They would have had Colin Kaepernick. And I'm not saying Colin Kaepernick's amazing. I'm just saying he's good enough to be a starter in the NFL, which, I mean, low bar. It's not it's low bar, respectively speaking. It's not as though we all agree Colin Kaepernick's not Aaron Rodgers, but he's definitely better than Matt Moore. He's definitely better than a lot of guys. You couldn't do what he did without being better than a lot of guys. I'm going to get some comments here, guys. Let's read through some of these really quickly. Wade says Elway is overrated. Unless I see footage of the offer to Cap, I won't believe it. Okay, so let's get to John Elway's comments. So yesterday, John Elway says that we gave Colin Kaepernick a chance to play and be a Bronco, and he turned us down. And that's the comment that everybody's getting upset about today in the national media, especially in the minority media coverage of the league. That it's getting a lot of play that John Elway is noted conservative, was in a deposition, and we'll get to that here in a second. But he's not on the same side of the aisle politically as Colin Kaepernick is, so everybody's pointing to that and saying, well, Elway's doing this for politically motivated reasons, just like we say everybody's doing it for politically motivated reasons. And I wouldn't put it past Elway to do that. I just don't think that that's what this situation in particular is about. Because Brandon Marshall's still on the team, and he knelt for the national anthem. So I don't think that if you can give Elway something, if you give Elway the knee, right? If you bend the knee for Elway, then he knows he owns you, and then he knows that you can be on his team. That's what this is about. It's not about some hard and fast rule that once I talk to a player and the player says no, I never talk to that player again. It's about submission. This is how egomaniacal, crazy people react and interact in the world. And there's a lot of those guys who are running Fortune 500 companies. There are a lot of those guys who run NFL franchises. This is what being enormously successful and having millions of people love you and having millions of dollars thrown at you because you're talented. And then also, in particular for John Elway, it always working out for you, being that kind of egomaniacal, crazy person, that gets us to this point. Where John Elway says in a media scrum when asked, he was asked the question. It's not like he volunteered this information. And if he had been asked this question, I think like 10 months ago, he would have given you the same answer. But look, John Elway, this is how big he doesn't care. I don't think he cares necessarily about political stuff in this realm. I think he cares about you acknowledging my power, you acknowledge I'm in charge, you work for me, you are my employee, you do what I say, you do exactly what I say, and everything I say goes, and everything I say is right, and everything you say has to be run by me first, and then I'll tell you if it's right or not. It is very, very poisonous to have an organization like that. But that's where we are in Denver. So look, there's a lot of politically charged stuff around this, and once again, John Elway was in a deposition 2 months ago in which Colin Kaepernick was in the room. We talked about this yesterday before John Elway said this, and I brought up the deposition. I said, look, guys, Colin Kaepernick was in the room when John Elway was being deposed by lawyers while he was being sued by sued by Colin Kaepernick, who's suing the whole league for collusion, and you think that John Elway is going to react positively to that? And then he's asked the question, oh, well, if you're looking for outside quarterbacks, is Colin Kaepernick on that list? Of course he's going to say no. The way he said no was very John Elway-esque. The thing John Elway did here was he did two things. He said, Kaepernick won't bend the knee, and that's why he's not here, which is ironic in many ways. And then he said, as I said in my deposition, vis-a-vis to Colin Kaepernick himself, you had a chance to be here. So he's telling you, look, I'm an egomaniacal maniac, and you're going to do what I say, or you're not going to be on my team. And then he also did this thing where he's like, oh yeah, and by the way, he's suing me. Why the hell would I put him on my team anyways? And he did all of that without bringing up politics. He did all of that without bringing up why Colin Kaepernick does or does not deserve to be on an NFL roster. He said, this is my world. I decide what's right and wrong in my world, and I control everything. Just ask anybody in Denver. My way. This is how things go. And look, I've been fighting the good fight on this. Like, I'm on Colin Kaepernick's side here, guys. I'm not anti-Kaepernick. I'm just saying, look, we got to acknowledge what's real in this situation. And what's real in this situation is that John Elway's he's definitely not going to sign Colin Kaepernick for a myriad of reasons, one of which might be politics, but certainly it's definitely ego and it's definitely legal. Those things are definitively true about John Elway and the situation Colin Kaepernick is currently in right now. There's just no look. Guys, I get it. You think Colin Kaepernick deserves to be in the league? I think he deserves to be in the league. I'm practical about this stuff, guys. Kaepernick is never going to play in the NFL again, ever. He's not going to play. If he's going to have any impact, and I think he could have a profound impact, not just on football, but on sports, on the First Amendment, on all kinds of stuff. And now look, his actual goal in all of this is to correct police brutality and the fractured relationship between the United States government in general and the powers that be and minorities. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on there with Kaepernick too that I don't know whether or not he's going to solve that problem, which is, unfortunate. But he might be able to protect freedom of speech. He might be able to do a lot of other politically motivated things. I'm just saying in this instance, he might do it. It's just not going to be on the football field. And, I give a lot of credit to Colin Kaepernick for sticking to his guns, man. Because, look, 2 years ago when all this stuff started, do you remember how many people were just opining that it was for attention? Do you remember that? Because I remember thinking, are you guys crazy? Have you ever listened to this guy talk before? Have you seen Colin Kaepernick on social media? This is something he cares about deeply. And then it was just like everybody turned it into a different thing, and we've used all these sort of diversion tactics to change the subject on what Kaepernick was actually protesting. It's gotten lost, and that sucks. It really does. For a myriad of reasons. But the idea that he was ever going to play in the NFL again after all this stuff, you had to have known, especially after he dropped his union status and then sued the league. At that point, you're in Curt Flood territory, which means you're never going to play again. Not only are you blacklisted from the league, you're also, at present, currently incapable of playing in the league for legal reasons. So there's a lot of stuff that he have to overcome. And before we get to all of that, or even after all of that stuff, then we have to start talking about how, they could still do it. He could still, the union's on it. You think he could actually help the team or not? This whole thing gets hijacked every single time we have this discussion by stuff that's ancillary to football, or I should say, football is ancillary too. And look, Jared, do you hate John Elway nowadays? That's what Jenna asks. Wade says blatant disregard of common sense. Well, it would have been common sense to sign him at any point before he sued the league. But at this point, it's common sense to say that he's not going to sign with the team. What's up? Is that Uni? Uni's on. What's up, Dean? Let's see here. Richard, Jenna. Jenna says, he openly doesn't recruit certain quarterbacks. Well, like I said yesterday, there's a reason why Tyrod Taylor's probably not going to play for the Broncos. And here's the thing, guys. I think there is a sort of cultural divide between guys who are minorities, black players in particular, and white players in the way that they grew up around the game. Because this is not true for every black player, and it's not true for every white player. But generally speaking, I think the cultural differences are significant. Black player's going to go in there and say, "The hell you're not paying me a guaranteed contract." And I think a white player's like, "Well, I need to be a team player," and it's very sort of militaristic in, I need to serve the team versus I need to serve myself. And to be honest with you, one of the few guys who never served the team and always served himself. He was allegiant to himself first beyond all others, is John Elway. And so you have to know that's who you're dealing with here. He has more power in the situation than Colin Kaepernick does. And he loves flexing that power. I don't know if there's anybody in sports who loves flexing their power more than John Elway does. He does it all the time, especially in contract negotiations. It's kind of, it's really dickish the way that he does it, but, that's the argument right now. It's not whether or not John Elway has an ego. It's does his ego benefit or hurt the team? Because, the good parts of Elway's ego are that he didn't play for the Colts. He played for the Broncos. He went to 5 Super Bowls. He went to 2 more as a GM. He won 2 as a player. He won another as a GM. 3 Super Bowls to your name, 7 Super Bowl appearances. That's a lot. That is an enormous amount of accomplishment that comes with, in large part, the swagger of John Elway. That's the good side. And then the bad side is he has submarined the roster and alienated all of the talent, basically, in the free agent pool in the league. And now you basically have to force players to play for you by drafting them. And then even then, once they get into a contract negotiation, if they're good, they're going to be maligned and demeaned and told to take a discount and then shoved off to some other place because they won't. And that's the bad of John Elway's ego. And that's where Denver's at right now. Denver is just helplessly watching as all of this unfolds, and they don't know what to do. Nobody in this town knows what to do. I have my opinions on what you would do with John Elway, but a lot of people are looking at it differently. Eric says blue equals sad, red equals anger, yellow equals coward, green equals envy, black equals depressed, orange equals racist. I don't understand. Are all racists orange? Oh, because Elway is Elway blatantly racist? I don't know if he's blatantly racist. I think there are some things that he's done in the past that would lead you to believe he could potentially be a little racist. But I don't know. I don't think there's anything. You can infer that. I don't think you can blatantly. It's not blatant. Eric says, for Elway being a quarterback, he sure has a hard time with quarterbacks. That's actually kind of true with a lot of positions. Michael Jordan is shit in the draft. He's not really good at running an NBA franchise. Larry Bird was not a great coach. Magic Johnson, at least to this point, I know he got LeBron James, but that's kind of similar to the way John Elway got Peyton Manning. Did Magic Johnson get LeBron James, or did Elway get Peyton Manning, or did Manning and LeBron decide to go where they wanted to go, and then that team just agreed to it? Because I think that's kind of how that actually played out. Purple equals choking. That's funny. Joe says, John Elway is not allowed to sign Cap. State the facts. Did I not? I feel like I've stated that pretty factually, Joe. What did I get wrong? Tell me what I got wrong, Joe. Cracker Craig's in. Yo, what do you know? Eric says, yes, high maintenance, just like Dez. Not many want that. Oh, you're talking about Kaepernick being high maintenance. He would be Tebow-esque, I think, in terms of the media scrum, and he is not going to falter on he'd have to give up the collusion case to get signed by a team. That's a fact. But he'd also demand that he be allowed to do whatever the fuck he wants during the national anthem. And that's also not going to fly. So that's where we are. He says, I want to do this and this, and they're saying, well, we don't want you to do this and this, and those are hard-lined yeses or nos for both sides. That's not going to change. That's not going to change. And so, look, I am one of the biggest Elway critics in the country. I've been saying John Elway is going to rip this town apart if he keeps behaving the way that he behaves. And I've gotten into shouting matches with people about this, that his behavior is detrimental to the Broncos. But I don't have the power to change any of that. All I can do is just talk to you guys and see what you guys think about it. Jenna says, Cap will go down as an MLK guy who will be remembered forever by a larger group of people, while athletes are remembered by sports lovers alone. I do think that Colin Kaepernick is going to have a larger place in history, no question. But it may be, I don't know what it's going to look like, because Curt Flood's issue, which went all the way to Supreme Court, gave us modern day free agency. Curt Flood sacrificed his career so that the NFL and NBA and Major League Baseball could all have free agency. And that was a landmark Supreme Court case with Curt Flood. And there were a lot of other landmark Supreme Court cases with athletes and their eligibility and the business side of sports. All of that happened and has influenced our sports. But this one is a little bit different in that it is a racially charged issue. It is a First Amendment issue. It's a lot of issues that are all wrapped up into, does Colin Kaepernick actually deserve to be on a team, and did the league actively strategize to keep him out of it? That's where we're at. So that's one thing where, can you prove collusion, which could change how NFL teams are defined as businesses? I don't think people realize just like what's going on here. Like all the sort of issues that could be at play based on that hinge on the collusion case with Colin Kaepernick. Like it's not just First Amendment rights. It's not just collusion related stuff as a business. It's also about antitrust in general and how the league is defined right now. They're like the Trinity. The NFL is defined simultaneously as both a singular entity and a 32 separate entities. And that's really confusing from a business perspective, which has allowed them to basically avoid any sort of litigation for antitrust. They've been given exemptions for television contract right businesses negotiations. They've also been given exemptions on whether or not they can be sued by trade unions, which is remarkable to me, which part of the reason why Colin Kaepernick had to decertify from the union. There's like all of that stuff is hinging on that case. And then that's separate from like all the football stuff. Do you guys realize what's happening right now with all this stuff? Like I follow it. I know that people are kind of tired of talking about Colin Kaepernick and they only want to talk about it on the merits of whether or not he deserves to play in the league. But there's like 1,000 things going on with this. And I tried to tell people this back when it first happened. I'm like, look, he's going to end up getting kicked out of the league. That's going to happen. And it did. Then he's going to sue the league for collusion. And I had, what's her name? She's a sports law professor. She specializes in sports law. She has written numerous books. Sarah Fields. Sarah Fields at UC Denver. I've had her on the show multiple times to talk about Colin Kaepernick in particular. We need to have Sarah Fields on the show, actually. She's awesome. And, this is an opportunity. This show is mostly like a fun show, joking show. This is kind of a serious show topic today about Colin Kaepernick and the Denver Broncos. And the Broncos winning 5 games or winning 9 games. It's way bigger than that. It's way bigger than whether they make the playoffs or not. It's way bigger than whether or not they have the money to sign Colin Kaepernick or not. It has way more to do with like could be league shifting type stuff. In fact, if I were the NFL, from a legal perspective, I would argue that they're better off signing Colin Kaepernick to a team just to get him to drop the collusion case. So the idea that this is about politics, I mean, kind of, but really it's about John Elway's ego, because I think that the league in many ways would kind of like Colin Kaepernick to be on a team at some point so that they didn't have to deal with all this collusion stuff. But then I could also see the NFL owners being arrogant enough to say, yeah, we could totally avoid the collusion charge. We can keep him out of the league. And also, too, we're gonna make him embarrassed. We're gonna embarrass him while we do it, and we're gonna embarrass all these other players while they do it, because that's the way these guys operate. This is not fair. Like this is survival of the fittest at its purest level. These are guys who are asserting their will on somebody else, and that guy is pushing back. And now we're fighting in court, and then we're also fighting in the media. And this is so far beyond just the average kind of race topic that you see once every 2 or 3 weeks in America today. Like, this is bigger than that. This is so much more visceral and fundamental and evolutionary, to be honest with you. This is dudes fighting over who gets to call the shots. I'm going to assert my will on you. And then you're going to say, well, no, you're not. I'm going to assert my will on you. And you're like, no, you're not. I have rights. And they're saying, well, let's see how far we can push those rights and see who actually has the power. That's where we're at with all this. Like, you know, and look, the conversations that we've had about race in this country and whether or not Colin Kaepernick is a victim of racism in America and whether he's a victim of racism in the NFL, like, those are important conversations, don't get me wrong, but they are adorable in comparison to the real, actual, pragmatic problems that Kaepernick has, that the league has, that John Elway has. Like, this is way more human than that. And I think we've got to... people just need to acknowledge that about it. You want to have a conversation about Colin Kaepernick? We can have a next level conversation about Colin Kaepernick. You want to talk about all this other stuff that's just going to distract you from what's really going on? Be my guest. But I'm not going to participate in that kind of stuff. I'm just not. If it were really about race, I mean, if it were really directly about race, we would have had it would be more overt. It would be so much more overt. You know what's overt about this is the fact that I know the context of all this stuff. Like, I've been following every single piece of Colin Kaepernick news that comes out of anywhere. And I've been following every single piece of John Elway / Broncos news that's come out of anywhere for the last 2 years. Like, I'm telling you, this is how things work in the real world. This is how things work at this level. Between guys who don't like each other and who are big-time ego guys and have won their whole lives. This is how it works. Let's see. Craig says, how you doing? We're doing well. Great men have conviction. Kaepernick does, and Elway does too. His conviction is in him. That's a political correct way to tell a specific demographic they are inferior, and that's wrong. I think minority had to do with minority versus majority. I mean, it's not minority in that you are lesser because you're considered a minority. It's a numbers thing. That's what makes a minority a minority. You know what else is wrong? Having only 2 political parties presented at a presidential debate. I don't know what that has to do with this. Wade says Brady destroyed those numbers. Amen, Andy. So Elway is racist? Elway has some behavioral tendencies that appear racist on the surface, but overtly, no. You cannot say that he is a racist. Eric says skill-wise, which is all that should matter, it's not all that matters. Maybe all that should matter in a vacuum where you only think about football at all. But like, think about, and I'm glad you said that, Eric. Skill-wise, which is all that should matter. Okay. Where's the line on that? When skill matters and when skill doesn't matter. Does skill matter when you're just judging things from a football perspective? Does it only matter when you're judging things? Should you only judge things from a football perspective? Because that's basically what you're saying. Football is all that should matter in this situation. But football is not all that matters in a lot of situations, including Tyreek Hill's situation. Oh, wait, football is all that mattered in that situation. What about Greg Hardy? What about any player who's been in any sort of legal trouble with drugs or substance abuse, like real legitimate substance abuse, like Josh Gordon's substance abuse? Because people thought that was mainly about pot. He got busted for the pot, but he had a lot of problems. When does that stop? Where's the line on skill set is all that should matter? It's political speech? Depends on the political speech. Is it political speech you agree with? Is it political speech you disagree with? Is it political speech that your fan base disagrees with? Is it political speech that your owner disagrees with? Where's the line? Like, you're trying to set terms. Skill-wise, which is all that should matter. Eric, is it? Because that's not how the real world works. And as much as the sports is as close to a pure meritocracy as we can get, we know it's not a pure meritocracy. We know that it's not exactly that. And we also know that there's a lot of other stuff. People get up in arms about supporting the troops. They get up in arms about domestic abuse. They get up in arms about drug use. They get up in arms about steroid use. They get up in the arms about all kinds of things that aren't skill-wise, which is all that should matter. Like, we have to be really careful about what those things mean when we say that. I have this argument because, for anybody who's followed me for any amount of time, you know that I'm a big believer in free speech. I think most people are. I think the vast majority of people should be. I think everybody will tell you they are. But, we'll see Roseanne make an off-color joke, and everybody wants to see her get fired, and then somebody else will make an off-color joke. I can't remember who it was a couple of weeks ago who made an off-color joke, and then I thought to myself, wait a second. You're going to defend this guy, but you're not going to like I'm defending joke telling in general. I'll defend Roseanne Barr because you know what, that Alex Jones thing. People got mad about Alex Jones. I'm like, look, the cost of free speech is that the crazy people get it too. So is it a danger to the public or is it not a danger to the public? And also, if you're going to bring up the whole Sandy Hook thing with Alex Jones, I would counter that by saying, why did Facebook and YouTube wait around like 7 years to do anything about it, or however long ago it was? I don't remember the exact date on Sandy Hook, but it's been several years. So like since he made those comments, so like just simply saying, oh well, so it's situational. It's all situational. I think that there are some things that aren't. There are some things that can't be. I think that's one of them. It's okay to fire somebody who makes off-color comments because them's the rules. Businesses have the right to fire people because of what they say at work, right? You either believe that or you don't. I don't believe that Colin Kaepernick should be fired because of what he said at work or what he did at work. I think he deserves to keep his job. I also think Roseanne deserves to keep her job. And I think that Alex Jones deserves to stay on a platform. But that's not because I agree with any of them in particular. I agree with Colin Kaepernick. I'm 100% on Colin Kaepernick's side. I'm just trying to bring some level of look, I make fun of people who make these definitive terms, right? I laugh, I mock the idea of these harsh, definitive takes that seem to oscillate depending on the day, or seem to oscillate depending on the perspective. Rational thought requires a little bit of work, and it requires a lot of objectivity. If you want somebody who's really, absolutely, truly unbiased about something, you listen to this show. You watch this show, because you know that I don't care about anything other than being as accurate as possible. If I'm not being accurate, it's pretty overt, isn't it? Usually. And when you can tell when I'm being serious too, because you can tell by the tone of my voice. Casey Stengel was a terrible player, but did well as a coach. You're talking about Elway and I gotta catch up on some comments here, guys. I'm gonna scroll down to the bottom. I don't want to miss some good topics here. I was overt once. Eric says it's about money. No team is going to touch him because it would cost lots of money on many levels. So do you recall Dave stuttered? Drop the racism. It's not relevant. Let's see. We are the United States. Why? Let's see. It's a surprise the Rockies didn't sign Jose Bautista, but did sign Ian Desmond because we aren't united. Well, not right now. The states that are still united, even if most people are decent. United by allowing all races, religions to live in peace and love. And wow, we're getting deep here. Then get edumacated. Okay. Zach says, come on. It was the Ambien. The Ambien? What? From, who's the, I don't even know what that's a reference to. Elway's comments? He was blaming the Ambien? Some signings are for info, as in a division rival picking up a released player. Signings occur for financial reasons, jersey sales, etc. Tebow sold jerseys, but was crap under center. He also won a playoff game. Actually, he's the only Denver Bronco quarterback to ever win a playoff game who was drafted by the organization. Use that on trivia night sometime. Who is the only quarterback ever drafted by the Denver Broncos to win a playoff game? Answer, Tim Tebow. Drugs are a different matter, but when it's all about you, believe in it isn't right. Everyone feels differently, and you should never hide it and should never cost you. I'm in agreement with that. I believe that Colin Kaepernick deserves to keep his job despite the fact that he wants to express himself at work in a political way. And look, there are a lot of reasons why people will say, well, that's not good. That's not good for business. It's not good as a strategy. We have to limit people from discussing these things because we want everybody to operate as a cohesive unit. All right. Well, this is going to cause division in the workplace. And you know what? The workplace will get over it. That's my take. Because I said the same thing about gays in the military. Before it was gays in the military, it was black people in the military, and everybody had a problem with women in the military at any point. And you know what? The unit was disrupted for a little while, and then the unit got over it. The business place will be disrupted for a little while, and then the business place will get over it. It's like you either value it or you don't, and I do, which is why it doesn't matter what the stance is. I'm going to defend your right to have it. Let's see. Alex Jones needs euthanized. I wouldn't go that far, but I would like to see people stop supporting his content. Just do that. Just stop watching him, and he'll go away. Let's see. Let's see. Drugs. We read that one. Most people are in favor of free speech until they hear something they don't agree with. That's true. Eric says, he should be lifted up and celebrated as a hero, not an enemy. Sports nihilist? I think that I told Bomani Jones this earlier today because Bomani and I were messaging back and forth, and Bomani is kind of with me on this. He's like, yeah, Kaepernick's never going to play again. This situation is too far gone for him to play again. And I told Bomani, I said, I honestly think that in the grand scheme of things, in historical context, that Colin Kaepernick not only is going to be more well-remembered than the vast majority of athletes of his era, he's the kind of player who they might build statues of. Alive right now, in 40 years, are going to be dead. So all of those guys being dead and Colin Kaepernick being alive, well, the nature of the NFL will have changed quite a bit in 40 years. And I'm guessing Colin Kaepernick's going to be pretty well championed. But this is his great sacrifice, is that he's never going to get to play in the league again. He's never going to get to be a football player again. And that sucks for him because he loves playing football. But, Kaepernick is a whole different thing now. The idea that he would get signed by a team, to me, doesn't, the question itself doesn't make any sense. Of course he wouldn't get signed by a team. Why are you asking? To incite a comment from a guy who's... And then it becomes about a thing that gets people really... Because nobody really gives a shit that Elway's got a huge ego. Not nationally. It's just sort of like, John Elway has a huge ego? Really? Never would have thought that. It's... nobody's saying that. Everybody knows. Everybody knows. It's not a controversy, but Kaepernick not being on a team, play the hits, man. Let's play the hits. Wade says, name drop much? Did I name drop? Was that it was who I was having the conversation with, and I think it lends a little bit of authority to what I'm saying because Bomani Jones is great. People celebrated Ali, not at the time. They did afterwards, but not at the time. He got banned from boxing for 4 years. His ego matched his teeth. Cap's done, son. He is done. And I'm not saying that happily. I want him to play in the league again. Let's see. Eric, going back through some of these comments here, 32 equals Trinity. I know, but it's simultaneously being many in one. Eric says, I keep hoping some team will say to hell with it and not care about the negative PR, just go and sign Cap. They are all scared. They'd have to get him to drop a lawsuit. That would be a league-mandated thing. Let's see here. Andy says, answer to the meaning of life, 42. Duh. Craig, stir fry the pot. It's going to be quite interesting if the Broncos bring on Cap. Not going to happen. I advise no, but hey. I was hoping he was right, Andy. I was 42 last year. Nothing good happened. Eric says, okay, yeah, it's about the money. Okay, so we've caught up on comments. Guys, leave comments anytime you want. This has been mostly me just monologuing here. Sorry I've taken up so much time. I want this show to be more about you guys. That got a little bit off the rails with some political stuff, which, look, I'm all about talking politics. It doesn't bother me. I know it bothers a lot of you guys, and this show's about you. It's not about me. But I felt like the crux of my argument in review. John Elway definitely is not on the same political side of the aisle as Colin Kaepernick. He's correct in that he said that they offered him and Kaepernick said no, But you also have to remember that the context that Elway needs for Elway's context is what Elway knows in his brain. So John Elway using that line is not the first time he's used that line. It won't be the last time he's used that line. And the fact that anybody thinks that you could put pressure on John Elway by saying, how dare you not give context that Colin Kaepernick, you wouldn't have signed him if he had kneeled for the anthem. If you wouldn't have signed him after that, okay. Of course not. Because it was already, the mayonnaise was out of the jar on the ego stuff. Elway already didn't like Colin Kaepernick. That's Elway's point. And that's always Elway's point, is Elway makes the rules for Elway. Elway makes the rules for the Broncos, and Elway makes the rules for any player who plays for the Broncos. And if you don't agree to that, then you don't play for the Broncos. And that is cold, hardcore John Elway stuff. And then the second thing is a snide remark of, and by the way, I told him that at the deposition. So I reminded you, yeah, he is suing the league. Don't forget that. We are a part of the league. That's what his point is. I think a lot of this stuff is problematic for the league. I think it's really problematic for John Elway, especially if they end up using John Elway's letterhead supporting a Supreme Court candidate, because he supported a Supreme Court candidate on Broncos letterhead. And, a lot of people had a problem with that. We either allow it or we don't. And even then, I was like, okay, well, it's probably not smart to do it like that, especially because of the hypocrisy of it. I wouldn't have had a problem with Elway doing that if they had left Colin Kaepernick alone, but they didn't. Let's see here. Wade says, I'm currently at McDonald's, and the girl next to me just has a tremendous backside. Just wanted you all to know. Thanks, Wade. Words are just words. Good show, Mr. T. Thank you very much, Craig. I appreciate that. He did it again. LOL. What did I do? What did I do, Eric? G says, let's talk about Cowboys going to the Super Bowl. No. Eric RC says, Kavanaugh. I don't know what that means. Fix your nappy sack. Fix your nappy knapsack, ninja? Wade says, hashtag fuck Elway, hashtag fuck Trump. Yeah, I mean, everybody's allowed to have their own opinions. It's a Friday. I think he could make the team better. He's not going to make the team better. The team is what it is, and that's not changing. If they wanted to sign Kaepernick, they should have done it 2 years ago. They didn't, and now I think they probably regret that a little bit, just a smidge. But in general, I would say that a lot of people probably regret a lot of things that John Elway has done, and they've done absolutely nothing about it. So I think that that's probably the way that things are going to continue to go. SC letterhead was about Kavanaugh. I'm sorry, I must have missed that. Okay, all right. Anyways, guys, thank you very much for watching. That's going to about do us for the show today. I want to thank everybody for watching. I apologize for being as dirty as I have been on the show today, covered in all this grout as we're trying to lay down tile in our brand new beautiful house that we got in very much big thanks to Brent Malia Properties with Coldwell Banker. Brent is an amazing friend and continues to be. He's somebody who we met and has continued to be a part of our lives. So we've been over the moon. And that's the kind of thing. That's the kind of treatment and relationship you can expect from Brent if he's your real estate agent. He does this with everybody. I mean, the TLC there is real, and he'll help you at the drop of a hat. That's the kind of guy he is. Brent Malia Properties with Coldwell Banker. Brent helped us find a house that was perfect for us in a great neighborhood. We were very picky, and he was no stress for him at all, man. He figured it out, and always huge credit. So go to tjsagent.com to find out more information about Brent, get in contact with Brent. And don't forget, we still have these Broncos schedules, little magnets on a football helmet with Brent's face on them. So go check those out when you can. We were giving them out at training camp. We're going to be giving them out continually. We've only got a few left, but I'll try to give some out at our next remote, wherever that may be. Also, too, don't forget about Platte River Mortgage. Platte River Mortgage is a huge sponsor of this show, and Sean Sedita helped us out in a huge way when we were looking for help with our mortgage. So go to PlatteRiverMortgage.com for more information from Sean Sedita about your mortgage. Sign up for SeatGeek today. Use the app. It's my favorite app to buy tickets. It should be your favorite app as well. Also, too, BetDSI. If you're a betting person, go bet your money at BetDSI.com. Use the promo code PHANTOM. They'll match your first deposit up to $2,500. That means you could have up to $5,000 to play around with all season long at BetDSI.com. So definitely, if you're going to BetDSI.com, if you're going to put wagers down, do so at BetDSI.com. Use the promo code PHANTOM. They reward their players. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. I want to thank everybody once again for listening to my ranting on Colin Kaepernick for the 7,000th time. I've done this since he took a knee in a preseason game in 2016. Later, y'all.